Hi everyone, and welcome to the next tutorial, which will be on pushing a Docker image from a Django web application to AWS. So we're simply going to push it to our Amazon ECR service. Okay, so let's get started. So I, as you can see, am signed into my root account, and the reason for this is I want to do everything from scratch. Okay, so from showing you how to create an IAM user and right through to Dockerizing and obtaining our Django Docker image. So that's what we are attempting to do here. Now, I am aware there are probably some of you that understand the whole process of creating an IAM user, but there are certain permissions that we need to add. So it's important that all of you follow as I do. But if, for instance, you already know how to create an IAM user, then technically you're a few steps ahead. But there is something important that you do just need to check as we do it, because we need to add, like I said, 2 specific permission policies. Okay, so first of all, let's go to IAM. Okay, let's do that. And it's good practice to create a group. Okay, you can technically just go ahead and create a user and assign permission policies to that user, but it's better practice to just go ahead and rather create a group, and that's the way I'm going to show you. So head over to user groups here on the left, and I already have one here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another one. Okay, so you can say create group. Okay, let's do that. Okay, now give your group a name. So here I'm just going to call it dev, short for developer. Okay, and I'm just going to leave it as it is. So just create the user group for now. And you want to attach a few permission policies to this group. So I have a few here on the list here, okay, that I'm just simply going to copy and paste here literally, because the wording is very sensitive. So the first one is administrator access. So we need that. So we can just copy and paste that here and just press enter, and it's going to search for it. So you can just go ahead and click on the checkbox. The checkbox automatically saves it, as you can see here, so you don't need to worry about it. And now we can close this up here, or we can actually clear the filter. So do bear in mind that it is still selected and saved, so you don't need to worry. As long as you click on the checkbox, you're fine. Okay, that one is done. And next we have IAM User change password. So this is very important, so go ahead and just search for that. Okay, there we have it. IAM User change password, which will allow our IAM users to change their password. There we go, select it, clear the filter, done. Next, Amazon EC2 container registry full access. So we are going to utilize something called Amazon ECR, which is very important for obtaining our Docker images. So we need to utilize this policy. So let's search for it, enter, there it is. Give it a check there, clear your filter. We have 3. We just have 1 more that we need to add, and this one isn't necessarily important, but it will be important in the future. So go ahead and just choose this one here. So Amazon ECS, full access. Let's go ahead and copy that and just paste it as follows. Press enter. There we go, it's added, clear your filter. And you'll notice you have 4 of these policies selected. Perfect. So what we can do is scroll down, and we can just say create group. Okay, the group's been created, so we have our group here along with all of the permissions that we have defined. Okay, perfect. Now let's head over to our dashboard. All right, so we have our user group. So let's go ahead and create an IAM user. So to create an IAM user, head over to users. Okay, I already have a user here, but I'm going to just create a new one for you guys. So let's go and say add users. Okay, let's just wait for that. Okay, give your user a username. So here I'm just going to say CWD user. So give it any name. Okay, under credential type, make sure you allow access keys, because we need this, and a password. And scroll down and select custom password. Enter in a password of your choice. So let's do this. Okay, and you just want to uncheck this, because we do not want our users to reset their password immediately on sign in. So uncheck that, make sure you have everything here selected, and just go next to permissions. Okay, now what we want to do here is add our user to a group, so they inherit all those permission policies that we just stated in our dev group. So go ahead and click on that. Now you want to go next to tags. We can leave this next review, Just double check everything is fine. You have your username defined. The access type is programmatic access and access to the AWS Management Console. And make sure that you have set require password reset to no and console password type custom, because like I said, we do not want to have to reset our password when we sign in. So if you have made a mistake on any of these, just go ahead and say previous and keep on going back to the point where you can make the change. Okay, this is fine. We're in the dev group. This is where we're going to inherit the permissions from, and we can create our user. Okay, this is very important. So what we're going to do now, I just want to close this here. Permission policies, we're done. So now I have an access keys text file here. So very important, like I've told you, please do not share your access keys with anyone else. Very important, it's very dangerous, so don't do that. I'm just showing you here for the purpose of you following along and just so you have an idea how to do it. Of course, I'm going to delete mine after I've used them, but make sure you never share them, very important. So I have one for, which means AK, access keys, and SK, secret access key. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this access key ID here, and I'm just going to paste it here. Then I'm going to show my access key, secret access key here. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it here, and save it. Okay, I can just minimize this, and of course it will be saved to my desktop. Okay, that's fine. Okay, we'll be able to access our AWS Management Console at this URL, so that's something I will show you in a moment. So we can just close this now. Okay, make sure you saved your access key and secret access key, and we can see the user, CWD user, has been created, and he's assigned to that group that we just created. So let's head over to our dashboard now, and there we go, perfect. Now, something important that I think you guys should know is to change your account alias. So some of you may have already done this if you've used AWS before. If you haven't, you'll notice your account alias will be your account ID. So what you can do here is just edit this up and change it to whatever you want. Okay, I'm going to just keep it as it is. Okay, so go ahead and change your alias. This is very important when we sign in with our IAM user, which we're going to do in just a moment. So what you can do is just say cancel, and you can just change this account alias as you prefer. Okay, great. Okay, so that is the main part. So we created our user group, added the necessary permissions, we created our IAM user, and that is where we are at this point. Okay, so that's it for now. And what we're going to do next is we're just going to actually log in with our IAM user. That's the next important part. Right, so make sure you take a note of your account alias. Very important, write that down. Write down your IAM user. So the one we created, of course, in my case was CWD user. So make sure you remember this as well. And make sure you, of course, remember your password. So you can go ahead and sign out of your root account. So let's go ahead and sign out. Right. So I've signed out, and now we can go ahead and say log back in. Okay, and you want to choose now IAM user. Now what you can do now is you can enter that specific ID that we had earlier on. So enter your own account alias that I said you should change here. So I've just entered mine in here quickly. So enter your account alias or ID or account ID and just say next. Now go ahead and enter your IAM username along with your password. Okay, so sign in as an IAM user, very important, and you can just say sign in. Okay, so let's just wait for this. And if you're signed in to your IAM user successfully, you'll always see this ampersand symbol or this @ symbol. So your user followed by the @ symbol followed by your account alias, which you defined earlier on. Or it will be your account ID if you chose to follow it that way. Okay, so that's it for this part here. So make sure that you have your IAM user set up and ready to go. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to search for a service called ECR. So this is called Amazon ECR, so Elastic Container Registry. And as I've mentioned earlier on in my previous videos, so ECR is pretty much like a GitHub-like repository, specifically for Docker images. Okay, so instead of source code, it takes in Docker images. So I just like to add the star here, very simple. And we can go ahead and click on ECR. Okay, there we go. So we are now on Amazon ECR. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're now going to start to configure everything and get everything ready with AWS on our computer and also prep our Docker image. So let's get straight to that. Right, Now the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we have the AWS CLI installed. So what we can do is search for the following, so AWS CLI install, okay? And you can go ahead and click on this link here. Now don't worry, I will attach this link in the description below, so you can go straight to it. All right, so those of you that have been keeping up with my AWS Fundamental series, you can literally skip this, you don't need to worry about this. But for those of you that are relatively new, make sure that you install the AWS CLI. So you can just scroll down here, choose your operating system. So if you're using an Apple-based computer, you're going to obviously use macOS, and Windows for the rest of us generally. And Linux, of course, if that is your operating system. So for most of you, it will be Windows. Scroll down, and you just want to download and run the AWS CLI MSI installer. So you would just download this, then you'll just follow the steps and set up the AWS CLI. It's simple as that, okay? So make sure that you have this installed and set up. Now, once you've done this, okay, you're going to now utilize your AWS access keys. So we would need to go to our CMD, so our command prompt, and I want you to run the following command after you've run your AWS, after you've installed your AWS CLI. If you are still struggling with it, I do have a video in my AWS Fundamental series explaining how to, just following you through how to set up the AWS CLI. But if you're done with that, and for the rest of you, you can just type in AWS configure here. Okay, so this is after you set up the AWS CLI. And what you want to do here is you want to enter in your AWS access key ID. Now, it's not going to show like this for you because I already have one pre-configured. So for most of you, this will be your first time, but the process works the same. So basically, you're just going to copy your access key here and just paste it in, irrespective of whether you see this or not, and enter it. Now your secret access key, go ahead and enter it, enter that in. And there we go. Okay, under default region name, you can leave it blank. Under default output format, we can leave this blank. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so very important that you configure that, or else the process of uploading your Docker image to AWS on Amazon ECR will not work. So make sure you have that configured. So we can close this up and just minimize it for now. Let's close this file. We don't need this. And like I said, please do not share your access keys with anyone. Very important. It can be quite dangerous. So make sure that you're up to that point. Right. Now, the next thing we want to do is just open our Django web application. So I have mine all set up here in Visual Studio Code. So go ahead and just open up your application, the one that you want to actually go ahead and add changes to. Okay, and then what you want to do is just CD into your project. Okay, so I want to go into mine. So I know mine is in my downloads. So I'm just going to say CD downloads. So look for your project and just CD into it. Okay, and I'm just going to go into mine. So I know what my project is called. Okay, and CD taskplate. Okay, so this will be different for you. Okay, so don't worry too much about that. And I'm also going to activate the virtual environment. It's a good habit here. So I'm just going to do that as well. Okay, so make sure you're now in your project. Okay, and while you're in your project, what you can also do is open up Docker Desktop. So just look for Docker. I'm just going to pin this to my taskbar actually. And actually, I'm not going to open it just yet. So what I want us to do now is I want us to just build our Docker image. So head over to your project here and just run docker compose build. Okay, so I'm assuming that you know how to build a Docker image. If you're unsure of how to do that, my previous videos do explain this, so you can just follow along and see how it's done. Okay, so go ahead and just run docker compose build. So build your Docker image. Okay. So if this is the first build you're having, this will take a little bit longer, but if it's not, then it will be significantly faster. So there's our Docker image. Let's clear the console, and we can just open Docker Desktop just to verify that our Docker image is all set and ready to go here. So let's take a look. Okay, so it does take some time to open Docker Desktop. And there we have it. Okay, so there is our application. our Docker image here. Now don't worry that it says 1 day ago, okay? Because what happens is Docker caches the latest build. So if there are latest build in terms of changes, so we can build multiple times, okay? And if there aren't any changes, it's only going to leave the latest Docker image build here. So that's why it shows 1 day ago. So if I made a change now quickly and I built the Docker image, it's just going to show 1 minute ago. Okay, so just bear that in mind in case you're a bit confused. All right, so here is our Docker image, and what we want to do now effectively is we want to actually go ahead and upload this to Amazon ECR. Right, so first of all, in Amazon ECR, we just want to create a repository which is going to store all of our Docker images. So I would suggest you choose private here, okay, it's much safer. And here under repository name, you can choose any name that you want, okay? And I just want to place some emphasis here on the visibility settings. Make sure that you set this to private, because if you set it to public, anyone can gain access to your image pools. Very important, don't forget to do that. So here we can just go ahead and add in our repository name. So here I'm just going to call it my first repository, or actually I'm just going to say my repository. Okay, so give it any name that you'd like. And scroll down, and as you can see here, you can choose to scan your image. You can also encrypt it, and you can tag immutability. Now, something important here is encryption. Just be aware that once you've enabled encryption, it cannot be modified after you've done this, so think carefully before you do it. Okay, and then you can go ahead and say create repository. Okay, let's close this out, and here, if we go out, we can now see that we have our repository all set and ready to go. Now, what you want to do is you basically just want to click on your repository name right here. Okay. And here's our repository. And what we want to do now is push our Docker image to this repository. So that Docker image that we have here, we want to push it to this repository. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, the first thing that you want to do is you just want to open a clean command prompt. We're not going to issue any commands to our Django web application. We're going to do this globally. So I'm going to close that and open a fresh command prompt. Okay, just a basic one here is fine. Just keep that ready and set. Okay, and also let's close our Django web application here in VS Code. We don't need to keep things open that we don't require. Okay, so let's click on View Push Commands. Okay, so we can see here we have a few steps that we need to follow. The first one is step 1, retrieve an authentication token and authenticate your Docker client to your registry. Use the AWS CLI. So this will be unique to you. Now, this step's not going to work, okay, if you haven't configured your AWS access and secret access keys that I showed you earlier with AWS configure. So do bear in mind that this won't work without doing that. So we can copy this, head over to our CMD and just paste that as follows. Okay. So let's just paste that in. Okay, it won't take too long. And login succeeded, perfect. So what happened basically, it went to get our login password and username that we configured with AWS configure. Next step here, we do not need to do this. So basically you could build your Docker image if you wish, but we've already done that and our image is here. So we can skip step 2. So I never do step 2, I go from 1 to 3 to 4. Okay. Next, it says after the build completes, tag your image so you can push the image to this repository. So this is the repository that we want to push to, so my repository, and it's going to be under latest. That will be the name of our file eventually, our Docker image. So there's only one change that we need to make here, and that is this part here. So the name is my repository and the tag is latest. If we go to our Docker image here, the name is application and the tag is Django. So this is incorrect. We need to change this. So copy this here, and you just want to paste this in and just go back, use the back arrow key to go back here, and you just want to change this to whatever your Docker image is. In this case, it's application and Django. So go ahead and just remove that. Okay, and just add the following like so. So you have it all set and ready to go. Okay, now you can just press enter, tag your image. If you go to Docker Desktop, you'll now see that AWS has tagged your Docker image and is prepping it for to be pushed. Now the push command is very easy. All you need to do is literally copy this here. So run the following command to push this image to our AWS repository, which we created, which is my repository here. So copy this, paste it in here. Okay, and all you need to do now is just wait. Okay, this can take a while. So this is us basically pushing our Docker image, which is based on Django, to our Amazon ECR registry. So this is going to take a while. So what I'm going to do is pause the video and wait till it's done. And once it's done, we're going to move on. Okay, so this takes quite a while. So let's just wait for this while it pushes our Docker image to Amazon ECR. All right, so there we go. So if you see this latest digest line here, okay, with the size, okay, that means that our Docker image was pushed successfully to Amazon ECR. So let's just clear this up and let's actually verify this. So what we can do is just close this, refresh the page. Okay, and there we go. So we have successfully pushed our Docker, our Django web app to Amazon ECR. So we've pushed our Docker image that we've Dockerized from Django to AWS. Okay, so that is how you would do that. I hope this was helpful, guys. I know it was quite a lot to take in, but this is the process to doing it completely and from scratch. Okay, so that's it, guys. I hope it helped, and thank you as always for the support. I really appreciate it. And yeah, see you next time, guys. Thank you again.